The following show is paid for and brought to you by Peter Savio and Savio Associates, LLC. Capital Convo on AM 690 and FM 94.3. The Answer is brought to you by the Savio Group of Companies, with the belief that we can solve all of our state's problems, including housing, by understanding the issues. We are ready to talk, and we want to hear from you. Join the convo by calling 833-296-TALK. Capital Convo is now in session.
Aloha Hawaii, this is Elijah Pierick, your state representative representing the West Side, Ewa Beach, Waipahu, Kunia, Waikele, and Ho'opili. I've got a guest with me in the Kalihi studio. His name is Ben Rex, and he is a resident of Royal Kunia. We met each other just the other day at a neighborhood meeting. I was at the Royal Kunia Homeowners Association annual meeting, and he and his wife were there sharing their concerns about the community. And then subsequently, Ben emailed me and said, hey, if you ever need help in the community, if you ever need somebody to help you draft policy, I'm your guy. And so I said, hey, that's great. I imported his legislative idea into my Excel sheet that logs all of the community's input on what bills I should introduce. And then I said, hey, would you like to join me on the radio? And he said, yes. So Ben, feel free to share with us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, okay. Aloha. Ben Rex. I'm originally from a small farm in Indiana. Enlisted in the Army right out of high school, did 32 years of service in the Army. Jumping out of airplanes and then eventually getting into human resources. Taking care of soldiers was my passion, and so I continued to do that. I am currently a resident in Royal Kunia. I've been there for the past 3 years. Barely made it back here to Hawaii before COVID lockdown, but we love the area and we want to try to help contribute to the community. We do. We help with feral cat trapping and neutering in the area to try to help with the population and do other things. Father of 5, grandfather of 6, all grown and out of the house, and a house full of cats currently that we're trying to care for, rescues. Anything else you need to know? Be glad to answer the questions.
Well, that's awesome. So I think he mentioned he was an officer in the Army, worked at USAPAC, which is the Army Command Headquarters with Human Relations. He first joined as a infantryman, I think. Is that correct?
Yes.
So basically he'd have a gun in his hand, jump out of a parachute, and then he graduated college and then became an officer and is now living in Hawaii. So that's awesome. And I think you have some questions for us, so feel free to shoot away.
All right. Well, thank you. First, I want to say thanks again for you attending the Royal Kunia Community Association last week. And my sincere apologies for the 2 hours of HOA discussion you had to sit through. I know it was very enlightening, but it was a lot. My back was hurting by the end of it. I did take a look at your page on the official state website this morning, and you seem to have been very busy this past year. But before I go into some policy and issue questions, though, I'd like to ask a few general questions just to get to know you a bit.
Yeah.
First, I don't know that much about your background, so tell us about your early years. Where did you grow up? Where are you from?
Yeah, for sure. So those just now joining us on the radio, if you didn't know this, I just met Ben. I think it was Thursday night, and so we emailed a little bit, and this is our first time having like a formal conversation, pretty much now over the radio. So this is why we're having
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Ben. So where did I grow up? I moved to Hawaii when I was 8 years old. I lived in Iroquois Point for a little bit, and so Ewa Beach is the nice stomping ground, if you will. I attended the Ewa Beach homeschool group that I was a part of with my siblings, so I'm very honored and humbled to be a part of Hawaii.
Awesome. And I believe you served in the military. Tell me a little bit about your service.
Yeah, so in 2019, I joined the Air Force as an officer. There's a category of direct commission, and then another category of like you have to be a cadet, and then you have to graduate officer school and things like that. I was a direct appointee, so doctors, lawyers, nurses, chaplains, that's how we join. And so I did my Bible college, and then I got my master's in divinity. In that process, became a chaplain candidate. I got my doctorate in pastoral counseling, and so did that for about 3 years and a half, and then I've received my honorable discharge, I believe, this July of this year. And so Fun ride.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your years of service to our nation, to Hawaii, and supporting our service personnel. I looked at your page and all the community service you've done around, to include on a lot of our military bases, providing services for them, their families, and our local communities around the island. Okay, so I see a few degrees listed on your bio, Dr. Pierick. Pierick?
Yeah.
Okay. I was pronouncing it incorrectly earlier. Your chief of staff corrected me on that earlier, so I appreciate that. So what are your degrees again? You got your master's and your doctorate in...
I've got my bachelor's in Bible and Christian Ministries. I've got a master's in Christian Studies, a master's in Divinity with a focus on chaplaincy, a doctorate in ministry with a focus on pastoral counseling. I've got 4 units of clinical pastoral education, 4 certificates in suicide prevention, and lifelong learner.
Okay. So basically what you're telling me is you're an overachiever.
If there's a class, I want to take it.
A lot of education. Okay. And I see how all of those things work together to help you provide service for the community and for individuals. So really appreciate your efforts there. To keep things light, I will occasionally switch from serious questions to fun ones. So the next question is, what's your favorite food?
Chocolate cake isn't bad.
Chocolate cake. Okay.
So I like chocolate cake. I like jackfruit. Jackfruit, you can get a whole lot of it when I went to the Philippines 3 times for mission trips. You can also get it at Frankie's Nursery at Waimanalo. So it's pretty good. I like jackfruit.
I have not tried it yet, but one of my neighbors is telling me he's got a tree in his backyard and he wants me to try it. So I've been promised a jackfruit fruit here sometime whenever it fruits. So, all right, that's a good start on getting to know you, who Elijah Pierick is. But now the big question: why did you decide to get into politics?
Yeah, great question. So I was very content serving the country in an Air Force capacity as a chaplain, and Chaplain Canada, I should say. And then in February of last year, I had felt like this calling to be open to do something new. And then from there, my friend called me a month after that, and he said, Elijah, you should try to run for office. I was like, why should I do that? And he gave me the reasons why I thought I should. Then I went to the state prayer breakfast, and the guy sitting next to me, attending the breakfast, was also running for office. And he said, Elijah, you should run for office too. So I was like, okay, I feel like it's a calling for me to do this, and I'm going to be obedient to the call. I think I'm going to lose, so I'm going to try anyway, and just be obedient to the call. Very grateful to the many people that helped me. Proved me wrong, and I actually won.
Awesome. And again, congratulations. The first time I met you was last year. You came door to door along with like 8,000 other doors. That's a lot of walking around. And we did enjoy getting to know you for a few minutes there. So congratulations on the victory. I've looked down a lot of things you're looking to do, and I'm pretty impressed. So keep at it. Okay, so to follow up with that, what is your current position in the legislature? I saw something about a deputy minority leader or something. And what committees do you serve on?
Yeah, so I serve as a representative on the Consumer Protection Committee, Economic Development Committee, and the Tourism Committee. Within our caucus, I am the Assistant Minority Floor Leader. So we've got the person who runs the caucus, that's the minority leader. The person who runs the chamber floor when we're voting is called the floor leader. I'm his assistant. Okay. I followed some of that, and I have a degree in political science, and I didn't follow all of that, but that was 4 years, many years ago, my undergraduate degree. All right. Now a few specific topic questions. As you heard during our HOA meeting last week, this was our 4th consecutive annual meeting where we failed to meet the quorum requirements needed in order to vote for new directors of the HOA board. For those who don't know, quorum means you have to have a certain percentage of your residents present to vote or represented by someone else by filling out a proxy form, etc. And if you don't have that specific number, in our case over 600 out of 1900, you can't even hold the meeting or the vote or accomplish any kind of changes to your bylaws or anything.
So this, lack of quorum left us unable to make any changes to our bylaws in order to address the quorum issue, in order to approve any alternate voting methods, or do anything to fix this whole problem that we've had for 4 years. The current system is set up where the HOA spends thousands of dollars to mail out proxy forms, which basically ask the homeowner to give their vote to the current board members, or to give their vote to another designated owner to vote on their behalf, or to just count them towards the number needed to meet the 1/3 quorum requirement. So the system is set up in a way that really seems to pressure homeowners to give up their vote to someone else. As a service member, for most of the past 30 years, I voted by mail for every office, including President of the United States. I legally sign digital documents on a regular basis using DocuSign and other methods. So I don't understand why so many HOAs use this archaic method that has proven to be very ineffective. According to the moderator who was at our HOA meeting, who was very knowledgeable, she said this is a fairly common situation among HOAs here in Hawaii and probably across the country, but we notice it here. But our current state laws are very outdated and don't really protect against these situations. There are laws, they don't address this. So my next question, what kind of initiatives are you considering for the upcoming session to address homeowner association quorum requirements, voting methods, or anything else that might kind of help us get after this problem?
Yeah, thank you, Ben. That's a great summary of what happened at our homeowners association meeting, and also good question. Per your email that you sent providing exact quote of what you think the current statute should be changed to be to allow the homeowners association to change quorum if quorum isn't present. That sounds like a great idea. When we have about 2,000 homeowners in Kunia and not even 600, which is 1/3 or so, is showing up, that's a problem. So yeah, that's definitely a bill that we can look at. I'm going to keep receiving bill suggestions throughout the year, and then around December, I'll choose the top 10 based on the community's input, and those will become the top 10 that represent our office in the legislature. And then 2025, if I get reelected, then I can introduce 20 bills.
Awesome. And as Dr. Pierick mentioned, we did have a conversation on this specific topic before, and adding some state laws that kind of jump in the event of lack of quorum 1 year to where the following year quorum is automatically reduced to 10% or something like that, definitely would help eliminate some of these problems a lot of us are having. So really appreciate support. If you can get that pushed in the near future, that would be awesome for a lot of HOAs. All right, you've earned another easy question then. I grew up in the country. I'm a big fan of cars, motorcycles, and anything that goes vroom, basically, with a motor in it. What is your favorite or dream car, motorcycle, vehicle?
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. My dream car is a Corvette, probably Stingray. Basically, every new model is my new favorite. Whoever is the architect or designer of those cars, he's doing a great job, or she's doing a great job. So since 2010, I've been looking at those cars and just been like, oh my gosh, what a beautiful car. And almost bought one in 2020. But I thought, you know what? Gas prices aren't going down. I want to buy a house someday, and so I got a Prius, which I can get 584 miles. That's the last time I filled up. I pushed the car to 584 miles before I filled it up with gas, and it cost $47 to fill it up with a tank of gas. And so I'm grateful I chose that at the time, and now I was able to buy a house in Hawaii. So but eventually, if I'm fortunate, I'll buy a Corvette.
Yes, there's a big difference between a dream car and affordable car. Yes. I would highlight that a couple of similarities. Number one, Corvettes can get up to 30 miles per gallon.
Okay, mine's more than that.
I proved that on a long distance drive in the Midwest. Obviously, your 55 or whatever you get is definitely beats that, but they're not too bad. Yeah. But I also just began looking at Corvettes in 2009. That's when the previous models, I didn't think they did a good job with the design, but the C6 Corvette, this 2009-ish, that's when they really started getting the design right. So I'm with you on that one. Definitely love the Corvettes and the newer ones. Having a lot of problems with the C8 though, the new models, transmission issues, and so I'm in the local Corvette club, and I sat in the table and hear a bunch of the C8 Corvette owners and their woes of, my car's in the shop for 6 weeks again. So whereas a C7 Corvette, no, that's a good car, reliable, no problems.
And which is yours?
Mine's a C7,
nice.
2015.
Okay.
I like the used, the older models.
Nice.
Again, you got to save money by buying them used. The new ones are a little too overpriced. And I used to race them, so I like my horsepower. But anyway, all right, to continue on with housing topics, the insanely high costs for a basic single-family home and overall lack of affordable housing here in Hawaii is at a crisis point where many residents can't afford to stay here anymore. My wife just read an article just today, and I can't remember where she read it. She was just reading it literally about an hour and a half ago, where it says there are a larger number of Native Hawaiians who live off the island now than there are living on the islands now, the island complex. That's pretty sad. And I would guess that probably a large percentage of them are not living somewhere else out of choice. It's out of necessity. Some blame this situation on foreign investors buying up the houses and driving costs higher. I'll ask about the overall cost of living situation in another question, but specific to housing, what do you think the state legislature can do about the rising housing costs or the lack of affordable housing, or anything related to that? However best you can answer it. And are you planning any initiatives for the upcoming session?
Yeah, so great point. I agree with you. It's not a good thing for our own people to be leaving the island because it's too expensive here. We should make it to where it's conducive to live here, especially for the locals, especially for the Hawaiians. So my sister moved to Washington State with her husband, and now they're 4 kids because it was too expensive. My brother Chaz moved to Los Angeles because it was too expensive. So it's something that I feel and something I'm passionately connected to, because I would hope that Hawaii can become cheap enough to where they can come back here. So what am I doing about it? I introduced a bill to eliminate state income tax. Florida has no state income tax. Tennessee has no state income tax. Many states have no state income tax, and they get a revenue for the state through sales tax. So Florida has like 30 million tourists a year. Hawaii has about 1.4 million residents and about 10 million tourists. So if we had those 10 million tourists paying our taxes through sales tax, that'd be great. And that's a measure that I introduced. I also introduced a bill with my minority caucus members to basically, if you want to save up money to buy a house someday, let's say you need 20% of a down payment to buy $1 million home. That's about $20,000. Is that right? $200,000.
$200,000, yeah.
So I introduced a bill that would expand the current savings tax bracket. So that right now, if you want to save money to buy your first home, you're only protected in your taxes like $25,000. Well, I introduced a bill to increase that to $200,000, so that your 20% down payment to buy that first time home is, comparable to the market. I also introduced a bill to eliminate corporate income tax, so that businesses could grow more, so they could pay their employees more. Because if the business has an overhead cost of paying all these taxes, they can't then pay their employees, and then their employees can't buy things like a house. I also introduced a bill to eliminate an inheritance tax and estate tax. So I'm definitely an advocate of lowering taxes so that people have more money to spend on what they want, aka a house. And thankfully, the city council member for Royal Kunia, Matt Wire, in collaboration with the other council members, has introduced a measure that can lower your property taxes by about $300 for some homeowners in Hawaii. So everybody listening, by October 2nd, please file that. Just go to Real Property Tax. Let's see, Real Property Honolulu.gov, I believe, is the website, or .com, and that is where you can fill out the appropriate forms to hopefully get a $300 return check in the mail after filing your property taxes voucher.
Awesome. Sounds like some good stuff coming down the pipes hopefully soon. I know for most of the problem, or most of the people that I see having the biggest problem, of course, are our younger men and women who are buying their first home. One of our daughters has been struggling with this back in the Midwest. Just can't afford to buy a house. Not just the down payment, but the cost of the house period is just going crazy, 2 and 3 times what the house used to be. So definitely be great to add some help out there for the local population, but especially those first-time home buyers, because otherwise they're just going to leave the state and take those skills that they have with them as well. You kind of answered a couple of other questions here, so let me skip around here a little bit. I had a question, something about first-time home buyers. Some of this, what you said kind of gets into that a little bit, but I don't know if it's called specifically a first-time home buyer program. But I know a lot of states out there have a number of programs up that alley, so that's kind of where a lot of the focus, I think, should be, and it sounds like you're getting some stuff going that will really help there. Let's see. All right. Okay. So back to an easy question. What are your favorite hobbies or pastimes?
Yeah.
What kind of things do you like to do when you have free time? Which you probably don't have a whole lot of, because we've already discussed how you're an overachiever. So.
Well, thank you for that. I love teaching. So tomorrow morning I'm flying over to Kahului, Maui, and I'm going to teach a class called Interpersonal Communication at one of their colleges there. In the spring I'm teaching a class in politics. So I love teaching in general. Different nonprofits invite me around the island to teach, so I like doing that. With friends, like just hang out, go to their house, go to the living room, and just talk story. Sometimes it might look like taking a walk or going on a hike, going surfing. That's what I love to do. And also my family. My parents are in near base housing near the airport, so I love just spending time with them, watching a movie, having food, walking in the neighborhood with them. That's what I love.
Awesome. Okay, let's see. Again, you've answered a few other questions I had. I came with a list of questions, and you're kind of checking them off a little faster than I can get to them, but that's good. I think you're,
I'll go slower.
Imagining what I'm going to ask ahead of time. So, all right, so I can stop beating you up about housing and taxes probably and move on to another topic.
That's an issue of our state.
Yeah, I know I had a question in here. I was specifically going to talk about the tourism and how can they help cover some of the costs. It doesn't seem like they're paying anything that really helps cover the cost of trash, sewer, water, and things in our police and emergency services. So it sounds like the sales tax initiative will help get at that in a big way, and that would be awesome. And of course, if we can reduce the state income tax, obviously that would be great for anybody who's trying to pay for a house or just make ends meet. Again, so I'll stop beating you up on taxes, but I know you have another topic is education. I know you have plans to propose legislation that I saw on your website. I was perusing that earlier today. You have plans to help improve the state Department of Education system, but I'm curious, what do you see as the primary issue with our DOE, and what do you have in mind for the upcoming session that will help address this issue?
Yeah, so great question. I would say right now the primary factors in the Department of Education is achievement scores. So when you look at the national averages of all 50 states and then the District of Columbia, Hawaii is ranked pretty low when it comes to SAT scores, ACT scores, other achievements like going to college, how many students in Hawaii get doctorate degrees compared to other states, things like that. And Hawaii's pretty low. So it starts at preschool and it goes all the way up to high school. And if the Department of Education does a good job, they usually produce, or I should say aid students to be high achievers and do all these amazing things like go to college and get a successful job and all these things. There's a phrase called brain drain in Hawaii, which means the people who want to attain more leave the island because they believe they can elsewhere, like Vegas or Washington State or California or Texas. So that's a problem that starts, I think, at our achievement levels. And so if the Department of Education could improve that, that'd be great. I have had a meeting with the superintendent of the Department of Education, Keith Hayashi, and I shared this concern with him. And his feedback to me was that they are trying to improve those scores. And Principal Zachary Sheets at Waipahu High School, he's one of the principals of the districts my district is District 39, and our constituents go to that high school. He's doing a good job at improving those scores, so I thank him for that. But there's a long ways to go. If only 80% of those students are graduating high school, that's not competitive with the other high schools across America at a national level. So I'm hopeful that we're going to have improvement in that direction. What we can do to get our schools to be producing students with higher achieving levels, I think, is having school choice, which makes schools become competitive. So if a teacher teaches well and the kids achieve well in school and they go off to get college degrees and become successful in life, in part because of the teachers or in part because of the principals or the way the school is structured, the culture of the school, parents take note of that. Like, for instance, Kaiser High School and Mililani High School, I think they're doing pretty okay. When the county looks at our high schools and we look at which ones are producing the highest achieving students, Pearl City is also among them. Parents take note, and then they want to sometimes buy a house next to those schools. What might be more conducive to just moving to those schools is allowing a parent to live anywhere they want in the state or the county, and then have those kids go to any school they want through school choice, which oftentimes looks like the parent says, I want Johnny to go to Kapolei High and I want Sally to go to Waipahu High for whatever reason, and they just let the child choose that. The parents sign off on it, and it's pretty simple. Many other states are adopting it, and so I think it's a advantageous thing for our state.
Right, that sounds awesome. Having had 5 children of my own that we helped get through school and college, that some of the stuff we talked about before about the finances, being able to afford to live here, if our families can't afford to live here also, how can they afford to pay for college? And so pretty quickly people start to turn that off as an option sometimes, or they think, well, I can't afford it here, so let me move somewhere where I can afford it. So again, all of these things really, a lot of these things that you're working on really seem to be coming together in a way that's really going to, seems like it's really going to help our communities do better overall. And anything we can do to help them stay here, afford to buy a house, and afford to put their kids in college, those are extremely important for our future. And you talk about brain drain. If all of our best students are going somewhere else because they can't afford to stay here or whatever other reason, you're losing all that mental capital, that human capital that we really want to keep in this state, so that our state can get better and better with each generation. So that's awesome. Okay, on a very loosely related topic, we're getting a little bit off of the other stuff. Hawaii does not currently participate in the lottery or other forms of gambling, except for apparently housing lotteries, which is a little bit different. There can be serious problems with any form of gambling, of course, but there can be advantages for some as well. In many states, the lottery proceeds are often earmarked for education programs, which we were just talking about, and the profits from like Native American casinos help pay for tribal governance, economic development, and the welfare of the tribe. Here in Hawaii, for example, I imagine that many tourists would enjoy visiting a casino during their evenings while in Hawaii, and many locals spend a lot of money to travel to Las Vegas every year to hit the casinos for a few days. In fact, don't they refer to Vegas as like another island of Hawaii or something?
The ninth island.
I doubt there's a way to establish native Hawaiian tribal casinos like the Native Americans have, but hey, it's a thought. So my next question is, how do you feel about bringing the lottery to Hawaii? Do you support that, or are you opposed to that, or legalize gambling in general, like casinos, etc.? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. The form of gambling that I have participated in is our friends. We played card poker, and instead of betting with money, we betted with push-ups. So we would each round, you're allowed to bet 20 push-ups, and my hand was pretty good, so I just kept betting 20 push-ups right off the bat. And my friend Tyler's like, Elijah, stop doing that. Start with like 5, because he would want to one-up me. And so anyway, they did a lot of push-ups during that game of poker. More seriously, I'm not a big fan of gambling. I appreciate those who are advocates of it. I like the ethical framework. I should say it this way. I can appreciate the ethical framework of the ends justifies the means, believing that if the money is going towards helping the orphans, or if it's going towards helping the Kupuna, or helping to build a new school, or helping the Hawaiians on the west side, or something like that, that sounds nice. But if we look at the means of that process, so the way to get there, oftentimes the low-income people are the ones gambling. You don't oftentimes have upper middle class or upper class people being the main fuelers of the gambling process. So if everybody's putting in $20 to hopefully someday win $1 million, all of those $20, most of those $20 came from low-income people. And so a way to look at it is to say that that's a form of helping others by preying on the lower income people. So oftentimes if you go to the mainland and you go to a gas station with lottery tickets, just stand at that gas station for like half an hour and look at the people who are buying the lottery tickets. It's usually the people that aren't well off. And so my goal is to help the average income of Hawaii above, like across the board on every county, to go up. And I think that, if it's like 1 in a million chance that you're going to win the lottery, that's very few low-income people in Hawaii that are going to be advantaged by that. And if you say, oh, well, it'll build a school and all of the low-income people can use that school, or, fill in the blank elsewhere, it sounds nice, but we have the largest funded Department of Education per state almost in America. Like, we in Hawaii put more money towards the Department of Education almost than any other state per student per dollar. So, and our return on that investment is some of the least achieving scored students in the country. So I do believe in supporting education, but I don't believe in the dollar per result being as low as it is. And obviously if we put more money to it, I don't believe that's the solution, because other states have figured it out with less money. So I appreciate the ethical framework of the ends justifies the means, but I personally don't adhere to it. So I've consistently voted no on gambling in Hawaii, with the goal of protecting the lower income.
Cool. Awesome. I, of course, don't gamble on a regular basis myself either, but I've been known to buy an occasional lottery ticket when I'm back stateside. But I appreciate your points, and very valid. I think it's pretty obvious when you stand, like you said, and look at a line of people waiting in line for the lottery, and it's not your CEOs, it's not your executives, it's it's your average working class that are struggling to get by, and it's many of them are desperate for that win, even though they know it's a huge odds against them. But I never really liked the way the lottery, like the Powerball and the Mega Millions, was ran anyway. To let it build up to where it's $1.3 billion or whatever. I think the Powerball, I saw a headline, or my wife mentioned, it's like 700, almost 800 million on the Powerball right now. That's ridiculous. Every single drawing, every single week, there should be a winner. And then you have a new million or several new millionaire winners every single week. That would be a little bit boring. But the way it is now, it's just not set up to, why do we need a $1.3 billion winner? But anyway, thank you for the answer. I appreciate that. And again, I'm not searching for you to agree with me or disagree with me. I'm just curious how you feel about certain things. And I think we're probably going to run out of questions that I have prepared. And I'm going to have to go off, wing it a little bit on a few here later. But we're going through them a little faster than I thought. Okay, so back to a fun question now. What is your favorite sport and favorite team? Yeah. If you have one, anyway.
Yeah, I would say that my favorite sport is probably surfing, and then my favorite team is Team USA. So I believe that they recently brought surfing into the Olympics, so I'm a big proponent of that.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I've been able to officiate a wedding at Kelly Slater's house. In fact, this shirt I was wearing when I officiated that wedding. Nice. A big fan of professional surfers. Kai Lenny is my same age, and so I love the way he handles himself on a board, whether it's a kite, a foil. I just think he does it very well. So
now, are you a surfer?
I am. I surf quite often. I've actually won first place in one competition and second place in another.
Cool.
Not professional, but amateur competitions.
Yeah, I'm too old to surf, so. Okay, awesome. You're probably the first person I've ever met that said surfing as favorite sport.
Yeah.
And I know it's awesome getting added to the Olympics here recently. There's a few other sports that have been added that are pretty interesting. It's like, okay, that's neat. I think, was it pickleball or something else that just added? I didn't even know what that was until like a month ago. What are you talking about?
If I could add something.
Pickleball? Okay, yeah.
So my friend invited me to his house to watch a football game. It was a college game, and that was actually the first time, only about 2 weeks ago, that I watched a football game all the way through. My parents aren't football fans, and so
you stayed awake the whole time.
Well, truth be told, I was on my phone a lot.
Okay.
But I was in the living room, I think, almost the whole time.
Okay, that's me with basketball or baseball.
Okay.
I went to a baseball game in Boston just so I could. Is that Fenway Park, I think, or whatever? I mix places up, but I'm not a baseball fan, and I just went there for the historic aspect of it. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go get a hot dog. I think I ate like 3 hot dogs just because I was so bored. But I do enjoy football once in a while.
Yeah.
All right.
Question: did you sing during all the singing portions of the baseball game?
No, I don't know the songs. And I'm that guy at karaoke night that when I get up to, I can make lots of money by singing karaoke because people will start throwing money at me to shut up and get off the stage. I will hurt your eardrums, seriously. So I've asked a few specific topic questions, but I know you've been very busy this past year, so let's talk about that for a minute. On your website, I stopped counting at 100 different legislative bills or other items where you were listed as either an author, contributor, sponsor, etc. What are the different types of documents that you submit for legislation? I'm familiar with bills, resolutions, etc. And how many were you the primary author on?
Great question.
Roughly.
Yeah. So each legislator on even years can introduce 10 bills, and then on odd years can introduce 20 bills. I personally am not a fan of that. For instance, in the Senate of Hawaii, you can have an unlimited amount of resolutions and bills. We have a cap of 5 resolutions we can introduce. A resolution is aimed at changing a department that Hawaii can't change. So the Hawaii Revised Statutes dictates over all of our state departments, and it can have governance over the 4 counties. A resolution might be aimed at one particular county. So I might introduce a resolution to focus on Honolulu County only, not Maui, Big Island, or Kauai, and say, hey, I'd like to have our zipper lane. So on H1, when you're driving west from traffic, a lot of traffic, let's have a zipper lane on the eastbound traffic. And I believe I introduced a resolution to that effect. I introduced a resolution to make it to our, we amend the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, with regards to commerce, so that Hawaii can self-govern who can buy houses in our state. I'd love it if we could just say only American citizens, and specifically Hawaii residents, can buy property in Hawaii. Because I have a friend he had like 2 or 3 homes, and he sold one of his homes to the highest bidder, and his highest bidder was from somebody who didn't live in America.
Yes.
I'm not a fan of that. I think we should really, tighten up on that. And so my colleague Brenton Awa in the Senate also introduced a similar resolution. So those are the only 2 forms of paperwork that we can introduce that would hope to become laws, is a resolution and a bill. We can also make phone calls to any organization and make suggestions, which I'm happy to do on behalf of you, Ben, resident of Kunia, and also anybody else in my district.
Yep, awesome. Okay, so yeah, that's a lot of work. Like I said, I stopped counting after 100, and I just we're the extent of my math on this and counting. So,
could I add something else?
Oh yeah.
So those 100 and something, those weren't all of my primary bills, so I can only limit myself to 20 of I'm the author. And it's really, I'm not the one that writes the bill. Almost no representative or senator actually writes it out. We have a team of people at the Capitol that can do that for us. And then we look at it and we say, that's good, we sign it, or we give it back and say, can you edit this part or that part? Beyond that, we can share legislation. So if you're the representative as well, I could say, hey, Ben, could you sign on it with me? And so now when we introduce it to the chamber floor, and then all the other representatives are looking at the bill, it looks like a team effort. It's, oh yeah, the whole team likes this. Well, let's give it a committee hearing. Let's give it a floor hearing. Let's give it to the Senate now. So that's the idea.
Now that one does not count against your 10 or 20 limit. Okay.
No, but I definitely proofread what I sign on to. what my name is attached to is
yes,
important.
as you should. That's a lot of work. Glad to hear you have some help doing that up there, the professional writers, because I know the terminology on some of those. I've had to read quite a few. One of the things I did in my specialty in the Army was interpreting policy, regulations, laws, and a lot of what we do in the military is governed by law. And if you can't understand and read and understand and interpret the law correctly, then your boss gets in trouble. And I never liked it when my boss got in trouble, so I did a good job, made it a point to do a good job doing that. So a lot of hard work, very difficult. It's not like going out there and just reading the newspaper. It's complicated stuff. Every sentence you read is challenging.
Could I add something to that?
Yeah.
So you mentioned that every sentence you read is challenging, and I agree that a lot of what we do has some language that is not easily digestible by those whose language is pidgin. At the same time, I believe there's a statute, and also in the charters towards the beginning portions, whether it's the preface or the first chapter, it says that these documents basically need to be readable by the common person. And so that's a goal that we aim for, but when the House of Representatives is stacked with lawyers and doctors and counseling and things like that, it becomes somewhat of a third agenda to make it readable to the common person. But thankfully, we have the public access room, so anybody listening to this show or watching it later on a podcast can just Google Hawaii Public Access Room, and then that phone number and email, you can ask them any question you want. Like, you could say, what does the law say about property taxes? What does the law say about women's rights? And then they can give you a copy of it. You can also say, what is Elijah Pierick's voting record? And they can email you a PDF of all of my voting records on everything in every committee. So it's all public information.
Nice.
And it's not, it shouldn't, if the people feel like they can't attain the information, let me just disevaluate that emotion and say that's not genuine, like it's not real. Please actually know the truth, which is you can have that information by contacting the public access room.
Yeah, and I didn't know anything about that until I was perusing your website, and right down the bottom of it, I think on the main page, it talked about that and had a link and everything. And I actually clicked on the link, but then I didn't have time to go to it. I'd look through it, but let's see. Okay.
If I could ask you a question really quick.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So what was your favorite bill that popped up out of the list of the ones that I had a part of?
I was able to peruse it.
Or least favorite?
I don't know if I'd had a least favorite. A couple caught my eye. I really liked your focus on the economy and things the things you're proposing about the state taxes and property taxes and things like that. What we talked about, the things that will help our population, our Hawaiian natives, our residents stay here and not just get by, but live okay. It's a lot of them are barely squeaking by, regardless of what they do for a living, and it's just it's very very disheartening. So I was really very pleased to see so many bills and resolutions that you're a part of over the last year alone, plus a few that you've got coming up that focused on and helping all of our residents in those areas. And then you had a couple other areas that caught my eye. Being from the Midwest, I grew up hunting and fishing and all this stuff. So, firearms was a part of my youth, and I was taught at a young age responsible care and use of firearms. A gun is a dangerous thing, and you be careful with it. That didn't, prevent my brother from almost shooting me with a shotgun on accident once with a loaded shotgun. So there are issues with guns, but I've been one of those people that over my lifetime I've tried to be a concealed carry owner. Good. And licensed, certified, whatever, and I currently hold it in the state of Florida. But that's not valid here in Hawaii.
Oh, it is.
And
I'm sorry, not reciprocal, but you can get one here.
Yes, yeah. Just recently they started reviewing and issuing. It's a pretty complicated process, and it takes a lot of time and effort that your average working class person can't do. But I'm that type of person that if I had a concealed carry and I was in a situation where someone's life was being threatened by a bad person, I would step in between them and the bad person, and it would be nice if I could protect myself too, because that a few people in the past year that have been in the news tried to step in and help somebody and ended up getting seriously harmed themselves because they couldn't protect themselves. So I saw there was a reference, and I didn't get to read it to see what your stance was on it, pro or con, but it was about concealed carry. So would you mind telling me what that one was about?
Yes. So we had over 3,100 bills get processed through the legislature this year. So if you could cite the bill number, that would be helpful, and I could refer back to the actual language of that bill.
I don't think I printed that off.
That's okay. But in general, with regards to my oath of office that I took on the third Wednesday of this January, it was to uphold and defend the U.S. Constitution and the state Constitution, which includes the Second Amendment, which is a part of our Bill of Rights.
Right.
So whether it's free speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of private property, freedom against double jeopardy in the judicial system, or protecting your self-defense rights in guns, I protect and I promote all of our constitutional rights, which includes guns. And according to the U.S. Supreme Court case in 2022, Bruin, there is a right upheld to conceal carry a firearm, a weapon, to protect yourself.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah, and obviously not everyone should be carrying around a gun. You need to understand what it's for, how to use it safely, how to use it legally, and all these other things. So I understand that the state of Hawaii, as we are now, issuing concealed carry permits. I just haven't gotten around to looking into it in detail. It's important to have a good system set up to make sure that only the proper individuals are allowed into that group of concealed carry, licensed concealed carry personnel. I was just curious how you felt about that, and that's awesome. Did you have another?
Yeah, the Hawaii Firearms Coalition messaged me, I think, on Instagram. If it's not them, it's the Oahu Firearms Coalition, some group like that. And they messaged me an upcoming training to understand how to use a pistol, how to get a background check, how to have a mental capacity that's functioning and all that stuff and worthy of using a gun, things like that. And so that class is, I think, free, or if it's not free, it's only like $100 for people to take. And so I would encourage people to get safe and get informed, get educated.
Yeah, hopefully, if I take that, they can help me figure out how to get my mental capacity going again. Here.
Well, I have a doctor who counts, and we can schedule something.
Yeah. I'm just getting old and tired. Okay, so this is a personal curiosity question of mine. So, as a state legislator, does the state provide you with a staff of any kind, a paid staff, or is this all volunteer work that, do you have to have volunteers do everything to help you out?
Well, thank you so much for that question. Yes, we do have a staff that is paid for. So one person gets $55,000 a year. They're called the office manager, but each representative can, relabel them. So I prefer to call our office manager our chief of staff. His name is Blake Boyd. He lives in Eva Beach. That's all year round. For state senators, they get 2 of those. We only get 1. Another difference is they get a sink in their office. We don't get a sink.
Sink,
so
okay.
We have to walk to the bathroom at the Capitol to wash our hands or whatever. During session, which is only from January to May, we get an additional $6,800 or $6,400 a month, and that can be delegated out to our session staff, and a max of $3,400 can be given to one person. So that's basically 2 full-time people, each making $3,400 a month. And so then our staff would basically be myself plus 3 people. What I've done in the past is I've had that broken up into 3 people. So one person would get paid about an hour a day to do a social media post, and then 2 other people would get paid to be in the office for those 5 or 4 months. And then, of course, Blake Boyd, the chief of staff, he would stay on all year round. Volunteers are great because we want the community to feel like they have a part to play in the government, because they do. Their voice is important. When they submit testimony into the legislator, that informs us legislators on whether or not we should vote yes or no. Because if we've got 500 people saying this bill is terrible and 2 lobbyists saying this bill is good, we should go with the people and vote no on that bill. And things like that happen. And so thank you to the community to getting involved in the process. I also believe in transparency. So inviting volunteers into our work is an opportunity for people to, meet me in person and know what I'm doing and ask me anything they want to. Like today, I just met you on Thursday, and now you're asking me questions on the radio. This is an opportunity for us to be more transparent. So I'm all about volunteers. I'm all about community involvement. But it's also, help, which is very helpful. There's a way to send out mail or communication to our constituents, our neighbors. I've got about 8,000 homes, 27,000 residents, 15,000 voters, and they can all receive mail through a $2,100 cost of everybody getting a flyer. And so thank you so much to yourself and your wife helping with that today. And that's basically state representatives get a $16,000 budget a year. It's about $15,900, but rounding up, $16,000. And we can use that on a variety of things. Some representatives use it on food, others buying a couch or a TV, or going on like a trip, like going to Maui to help out the Maui victims. These are all, some of them are good reasons to use it. I try to prioritize communication. And so if we take $16,000 divided by $2,100, which is a mailer, that comes out to be about like 8 pieces of mail a year. And so that's about every 50 days, my team calculated it out, that my community is getting a piece of mail from my office, letting them know what I'm doing. And I think that's important because if you're electing me, if you're paying your state income tax, which goes to the state budget, which then goes to my salary, you guys deserve to know what that goes to, which I think gets reflected into a mailer. So I'm all about using what's budgeted to us in a way that's best serving the community.
Awesome. We prior to starting the session today, we were talking a little bit about some of this, and I talked to my wife, and she's like, representative said, if you had to pay somebody to do this would be thousands of dollars. And I'm like, oh, cool. We just saved taxpayer dollars.
Yes, you did.
Which is our dollars, and I'm not even Republican. So I'm like, I'll go stuff some envelopes and help sort it to save some taxpayer dollars. Absolutely.
Can I give the numbers on that?
What's that?
So I appreciate you saying that, and thank you so much for helping our team. Basically, if we were to pay a team to sort the mail, for a team to sort the mail, it would cost like $4,000 or more than like $3,900 to do all that for us. But if we simply sort the mail ourselves and then give it to the post office, it's only $2,100 for 8,000 homes. So we're saving, about $1,000 to $2,000 every time somebody gets mail by doing it this way with volunteers. So
and it's not difficult work. So if you're out there and you have nothing to do and you find out that there's some help needed, by all means come out and help save some more taxpayer dollars. And it was actually it was interesting. We got to meet a few other people, and you get to talk and meet our representative as well as some of the other volunteers. So it's a nice opportunity to get out and get together. I just filled out another one of your surveys that you mailed out just the other day.
Was it blue?
I thought it was the second time I'd filled it out because the questions seemed familiar, but maybe you didn't get my first one out. Maybe I forgot to mail it. But I think I did it online this time, which is nice. I like to save postage, so I did it online. It's the 10 questions of how do you feel about this and all that. And so it's a good opportunity to get in there and let you know what we want and what we're thinking. And then it was nice, very refreshing to see where you had some of your feelings on some of those. Some of them are pretty cut and dry, but how do you feel about this or that? And you started off, hey, on this question I feel like this and this is why. So not just no, it was a why I don't believe in this or why I feel that this should not be the case. So that was very nice to be able to read that. And I don't think I've ever seen a representative at any level where I've lived in the past that really did that. So I really appreciate your transparency. Word of the decade, I think, in every area. But it was really nice reading that. Let's see. Yes.
I appreciate you saying that. If I could add an experience that really shaped the way my team made that survey, is being in officer training school in Montgomery, Alabama in 2020. It was during COVID, and for whatever reason, there's the colonel over the school, then there's his E9, who's like his chief of staff, if you will, the administrator of what's going on. And before the commander came in, we're all there waiting for him. He basically briefed us and said, all right, we know that the commander's coming in. You're all allowed to share whatever you want. And then he gave us a bunch of rules on what we're supposed to say. It's like, you're giving me this filter filter of what I'm supposed to say and not say.
Don't ask about this. Don't ask about that.
He basically said, don't complain. And then he listed all the things of like, yeah, and I know that the food doesn't taste good. And I know that your sink leaks. And I know that you don't like us. And I was like, if this is a genuine time to give feedback, let me give feedback. So
Right. There are better ways of, having been a senior leader in the Army for many years. I made it a point to be transparent to my soldiers and to communicate as best I can. But there are ways of saying it and ways of not saying it.
Yeah.
Situations like that, you come in and like, all right, so we know about this, and this, and please don't bring that up because we've already got a work order on it and we're just waiting for the part to come in. So
that's
you're
valid.
beating a dead horse or whatever. But if you don't say it like that, then basically the receiver is like, oh, I was just told to shut up.
Yeah.
And I'm doing pretty good at keeping it clean here too. 32 years of Army. Okay, so I know you have some topic areas that you are passionate about and are high on your agenda for the upcoming legislative session.
We actually have a minute left. Do you mind if I just close this out?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ben Rex, for joining us
question
on
19,
this show.
awesome.
I love the way you paced us throughout this whole thing. Everybody listening, please go to Honolulu'uli Middle School. That's in Eva Beach, East Kapolei, and join our listening tour. That's an opportunity for you to share your opinion about how Hawaii needs to improve, and your Minority Caucus is listening. Please join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 5 to 6 p.m. on this station. Aloha.
AM 690, FM 94.3. The Answer was brought to you by the Savio Group of Companies, with the belief that we can solve all of our state's problems, including housing, by understanding the issues. Join the convo every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 5 p.m. right here on The Answer.